Genshin Impact is dying. And I'm not saying the game is dead, I'm saying the game is dying. The game is definitely on a downward trajectory, its viewership is going down, and there's very little new players. I doubt the game is ever going to EOS just because there's so much money that Genshin has made. I mean, it is a $1 billion company, but at this rate, Hoyo is just going to be spending a fuck ton of money on a game that is just not growing at all. If you guys think that Genshin is not dying, well, I don't know what to tell you. All you have to do is look up guides in Genshin, and it's just nowhere near the amount of views it used to have. Content for Natlan's views are also at an all-time low. On Google Trends, it's just not doing very well. People are getting less and less interested in it by the day. And maybe the interest will come back when the new region is released. I still don't think Genshin will ever go back to what it once was. And this is because the game kind of just refuses to improve. I actually used to love Genshin, but now I'm like a D1 Genshin hater. And that is mainly because, personally, I spent the most time and money in this game than I have for Honkai Star Rail, Zenless Zone Zero, and Wuthering Waves combined. And when I say time and money, I'm not talking about only polls. At one point, I was addicted to getting autographs by the VAs. Now that I think about it, it's probably the worst investment I probably could have done. And honestly, thinking about all this kind of makes me sad because Genshin was the game that put gacha on the map. It was like when Gangnam Style came out and it put K-pop on the mainstream. That's how big Genshin Impact was. It was also heavily boosted because it came out during COVID where everyone was at home and people just had nothing to fucking do. And also people couldn't go outside, so there was just nothing to spend their money on. So guess what they turned to? Gambling for waifus and husbandos. And honestly, I actually have a lot of fond memories of playing Genshin. I remember spending so much money to get Raiden Shogun and her weapon. So I'm gonna have to thank Tectone for being able to change the weapon system to what it is now. If it wasn't for him, who knows how much money people have lost. And around when Sumeru came out, that's kind of when I just lost investment into the game. The game just wasn't getting any better. Like, the story was unskippable, and quite frankly, I just couldn't give a shit about Nahida. The only other thing it offered was the elemental system in its combat, and I'm gonna be honest, it was just so dumbed down by Dendro that I was just like, alright, my Tartaglia team is now just bullshit. Because Nahida can just press E and kill everything along with my Raiden. Mix green and blue, then use Electro. Like, what the fuck? Genshin is in its worst state that's ever been. Combat is pay-gated. I mean, you can do it in other ways, but it's just so much easier if you pull the new characters. So what, they pay-gated combat? Who cares? I don't really play Spiral Abyss. Alright, what about this? Exploration is now pay-gated. If you pull Mavuika or that new cow character, you can traverse the map way faster than anybody else. And guess what? It only works really well for that specific region, or you have to C6 them. And to me, that is a load of shit. So let's see, Genshin combat's ass, story is ass, combat is pay-gated, exploration is pay-gated. What unique experience does Genshin offer? Oh, TCG. Oh my god, everybody plays TCG in the West. What the fuck? And the Serena Teapot? There's no unique mechanic in the Serena Teapot to make me even want to invest a second into that shit. Look, I actually love base building systems, but Serena Teapot is just so open-ended that I kind of just don't want to do it. Look, I just place shit down so I can gather coins, and then you exchange those coins for more materials. That's about it. I also use it to farm plants. What? And maybe you can make a parkour map out of it? Like, who cares? I kind of think of Genshin like Sword Art Online. Sword Art Online was pretty much like the only good isekai at the time, and when I was younger, I really thought Sword Art Online was the shit. But then I rewatched it, and now it is just shit. And it's kind of the same thing with Genshin. It was the best open world gacha game at the time, and there was just nothing to compare it with. Standards are really low, but what came out? Wuthering Waves. Sorry, my mic's battery died, so you're just gonna have to hear me like this. I want you guys to imagine Genshin as this big pie, and that pie is the open world gacha game. And that pie is a representation of how many people play the game. And recently, with the amount of new releases and announcements coming out, and also with the release of Wuthering Waves, Genshin has just been losing a piece of that pie. One by one by one. Just chunks. Even Honkai Star Rail and Zenless Zone Zero has taken a piece of that pie. The only problem is that those two games are also Hoyoverse games, so they are also making money. That kind of keeps these games alive. So I just mainly want to talk about all the other games made by different companies that are just not a part of Hoyoverse. And what better way to start out than with Wuthering Waves? Wuthering Waves had a really, really rough launch. The number one thing that Wuthering Waves offered was just really, really good combat. And honestly, it did deliver on that end. Also, traversal and exploration in Wuthering Waves beat Genshin by a long mile. Wuthering Waves offered this grappling hook. You could also turn into echoes, which added an extra depth into the combat system. However, all those things were really hard to enjoy because the network connection that I had in Wuthering Waves was so bad. It had like crazy performance issues. However, since the movement was so good in Wuthering Waves, I just could not go back to Genshin. I mean, we had wall running, the gliding felt better, it felt like there was like more bounce to it. Gliding in Genshin, you kind of just press space and then you fall straight down, like what the fuck is that? The grappling hook was also really nice. So just by that alone, Wuthering Waves literally made Genshin unplayable for me. So every time that I've gone back, the only thing that I've done was just play the Spiral Abyss because you didn't have to worry about running around doing exploration. But still, Wuthering Waves had its problem. The story was shit, the game was buggy as hell, and the VAs, I mean, did you guys hear Yang Yang and the Rover's voice actor? Like, it was just so bad. The thing about Kuro Games is that they understood what they had, and they also knew a very important lesson, and that is competition breeds excellence. They saw that Honkai Star Rail was giving away Dr. Ratio for free, so guess what? They gave a Shangli Yao for free. And if you don't know who Shangli Yao is, he's like this 5-star character in Wuthering Waves. And remember what I said, the combat is really good. And Shangli Yao definitely added to the combat experience. He's such a great character. He's absolutely busted. He freezes time, and his gameplay kind of just dumbs down to pressing R, pressing E, and clicking your mouse button, and then pressing E and clicking your mouse. That's it. And Shangli Yao's best in slot support was Yinlin. And that was a character that a lot of people had because, number one, Yinlin is a support character, and in gacha games, support characters don't get power crept very often. So a lot of people just had Yinlin in their accounts. And also Shorekeeper was coming out, and she is absolutely busted. She's pretty much like the only must pull in Wuthering Waves. So this Shangli Yao wasn't just some free bullshit character that Wuthering Waves gave away for free. Just having him in your account added so much more value into your experience of the end game content. And honestly, when I got him, that's when I first cleared the Spiral Abyss of Wuthering Waves. It's called Tower of Adversity. So them giving away the free Shangli Yao made me feel like, wow, the devs are just really great and they really care about the players. I'm gonna be honest though, when Camellia came out, my investment in the game was kind of already at an all-time low, and that was the first time I quit Wuthering Waves. But this is how when the devs are great turn into the devs are fucking awesome. The release of 2.0 in Wuthering Waves is quite possibly the biggest comeback I've ever seen a game have. They added flying. They made exploration so much easier with the tools that they gave. The story was amazing, and that's because when there's a skip button, the devs are incentivized to make the story really good. They also released awesome characters like Carlotta, Phoebe, and now Zani's coming out on the anniversary and she looks amazing. Chacona. You guys have no idea how addicted I am to Cantarella. I took so many screenshots of her during her story quest. The Cartathea story was also amazing, and unfortunately my point about competition breeds excellence didn't really apply to Genshin. For them, competition breeds contentment. Genshin basically stayed the same. They also gave out this survey which they had all the answers for. They were asking like, why does our weekly boss system suck? And the answer is just in the survey. Like, you guys know what you have to do, you're just lazy to do it. And also the survey wasn't even out to all the players. You had to look it up through a link. Or you had to follow Brand Online on Twitter in order to get to the survey. Oh yeah, for the cherry on top, the CEO of Hoyoverse decided to cry on stage, and that spawned the meme of The Way May Cry. I mean, seriously, he cried about how his game is not doing well. Bro, you have so many resources to make the game good. You just don't fucking do it. Anyway, let's go back to what Genshin offered. Story, combat, exploration. Guess what? Wuthering Waves offered everything that Genshin had, but way better. Wuthering Waves now even has its own elemental system. What else does Genshin have? Like, nothing. The combat experience of Wuthering Waves has been the most enjoyable experience I've ever had. The Towerversity is great. Holograms are amazing. Whimpering Wastes, not so much. The co-op event to kill the bosses, super fun. Oh yeah, not to mention the pre-registration rewards that they gave out. Anniversary rewards, maybe not that great, but still way better than Genshin will ever do. If Genshin Impact told you that they're giving away 37 free polls, 57 now. Y'all would have been losing your mind. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that Wuthering Waves has a guaranteed weapon banner system. Like, what the fuck? So Kuro devs took a little piece of that pie from Genshin Impact. But there has been more games announced that is also going to take away that pie of Genshin. Let's talk about all of them. The next game I'm going to talk about is Neverness to Everness. In my opinion, this is probably the weakest game out of the bunch. In terms of taking the piece of that pie, I think it's going to take the least out of all the games that are going to be announced. Nevertheless, I get it. Okay. I'll stop. The story looks phenomenal. I mean, like, the cutscenes look amazing. They look almost equal to Zenless Zone Zero in terms of expressions, face design. The characters look super alive and fun. And honestly, I think Neverness to Everness is going to deliver on a really good story. When I say deliver on a good story, combat and exploration doesn't matter as much as attachment to characters. So if you deliver on a really good story, man, people are gonna stick around for a really, really long time. And I'm pretty sure NTE is going to be on a good track record for a good story, just because everything feels so expressive. The biggest issue about Neverness to Everness is its main thing was the whole GTA 6 driving around stuff. But when I was watching the gameplay and looking at the driving mechanics, it kind of just had me like scratching my head, because it was like the number one thing that the game delivered on, and it looked like it just didn't deliver on it. Also, the combat looks really bad. It just looks like a worse version of Wuthering Waves. If you go to a restaurant and you get a burger, it's like, why would you go to this burger restaurant when you know the other burger restaurant is better? So I don't know why you would play Neverness to Everness if the combat is just worse than Wuthering Waves. I mean, it looks almost 1-to-1, except the combat just doesn't feel as good. Like, when I use Jinxie, my favorite character, by the way, and I press E, I feel like I'm dropping a fucking nuke. Same thing with Camellia. When I press E, I feel for the enemies because they're about to get blasted. But when I watch NT, like, the numbers are so small, the hits don't feel impactful. Also, its biggest selling point was like the exploration and the whole driving the car stuff. But like, the game also needs other ways to traverse through the map, and it looks like they kind of just went with Genshin's gliding system. What the fuck? And cool, you can turn the world upside down with one character's ability, but like that's it. The thing that I do find pretty cool is the managing your own apartment, and also you can manage shops around the world, which makes the world really immersive, and that's pretty important. But there's like a game that's coming out that I feel will blow NT out of the water. Anyway, Neverness to Everness might be dead on launch, but it will still take players out of that Genshin pie. Anyway, that's all I have to say about NT. The game that I'm talking about that's going to NTR NTE is Ananta, formerly known as Project Mugen. Ananta is the game that I'm looking forward to the most out of all of them. And that is because the exploration looks absolutely incredible for an urban open world RPG game. It is going to cream pie all over NTR and NTE. Let's talk about what NTE was supposed to deliver on, and that was exploration and driving cars. Well, Ananta blew it out of fucking park. The cars are physics based, so when you drive around, you can bump into other cars. And I'm kind of hoping that you can just run over NPCs. I'm just looking for like a GTA 6. Like, what Genshin did was they took a Breath of the Wild and then they turned it into a free game. What Ananta is doing is they're turning GTA 6 into an anime game that is free. It sounds honestly amazing. It might be too good to be true. I'm down for whatever the fuck they're cooking up. It looks like you can also Spider-Man through the world. I am so sick of gliding. Please get rid of that shit. Spider-Manning in the world though sounds amazing. I hope they also add flying into it, just because why the fuck not? Like, let's just have everybody be Batman. Cinema. And it just has the promise of being the best exploration out of all the games, not even close. They also made this world super immersive. So they added things like minigames, and I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't too excited about minigames. But ever since I played Zenless Zone Zero, minigames are really important for the game because it makes the world feel alive, feel immersive. I guess the number one thing about Ananta for me is freedom. Yes, I am Eren Yeager. I've seen some gameplay footage, and it looks like you can actually do whatever the fuck you want. Like, you can go to the gym, which, like, you should just go to the gym IRL, but that's besides the point. You can pick up barrels and just toss them everywhere. Like, they have features that no one has really asked for, but they just have it for fun. And it's really important to have a game that adds all the small stuff because again, it adds to immersion. Look guys, I just want to do random stupid shit. Like maybe I just want to pick up like 10 cats and just drop them off in a corner. Late night conversations, Spider-Man around the world. And the physics in the game looks amazing because like the mobs are like when they swing, if they hit like a barrel or something, the barrel will get knocked off. Like I want to be able to use my environment in order to do the combat. Imagine the spiral abyss of this game where like they give you a bunch of explosive barrels and you can just cheese the game by just throwing them at like bosses or something. Being able to do that sort of stuff is kind of equivalent to making a game from 2D to 3D. Like you kind of just added an extra dimension of layer into the game. You can do so much with environmental physics, it's insane. Overall, Ananta looks really nice. I can't wait to play the fuck out of this game. So Ananta and NTE, yum yum yum, give me that fucking pie. Alright, let's move on to the next game, Ark Knight Enfield. Ark Knight Enfield is super different from all the other games that I've seen on this list. The number one thing that they're offering is base building. And number two, their combat is like a tactical RPG where the other characters also fight with you, rather than the usual one character on the field fighting. Let's first talk about the base building. It's probably the coolest system that I've seen in every other gacha game. What I've seen from the gameplay is there's like a lot of hand holding in the base building at first, which is absolutely something that I need because when I saw the bases, I was just confused as hell. The thing with combat is you can just keep fighting and fighting over and over again, and eventually you just get it. I understand it now, but with base building, you can't just raw dog your way into it unless you played Factorio. So I'm glad that they're making it a little bit casual friendly for new players going to genre like me. And the thing about base building games is that you can absolutely get locked in by it. And I'm talking like days or like maybe even weeks of just base building. I remember when I first installed Cookie Run Kingdom, and it's kind of like those Facebook farm games where you just keep putting in buildings and you wait for them to give you resources, and then the next day you collect those resources and then you just keep making more and more, adding more shit into your base. And like that's kind of like the leveling and the progression system of the games. The base building part was probably the best part about Cookie Run Kingdom. And if they have something like this in Ark Knight Enfield, oh boy, it's going to take all those Genshin players, take that little piece of the pie, and they're going to be locked into the game for a while. As long as they keep adding and progressing the base building system, it's going to be one of the best gacha games in the market. Now, I'm not expecting the base building system to be like Redstone in Minecraft, but I do expect it to go deeper than what the tutorial gives you. I can't wait to look up guides into theory crafting on just the base building alone and not on like the character guides that are just absolutely everywhere in the YouTube space. The combat system looks like a tactical RPG where you have multiple characters in your party fighting at once. And it seems like the 4-star variants of the characters are also really useful. I'm super excited to hear that the game is super free to play friendly, especially since I don't really spend that much money on gacha games anymore. And I'm just glad that they're doing something to change up the combat. And I kind of hope that they listen to the player base and not just make it like another Wuwa/Genshin copy for the combat. I hope they kind of just make it into their own little thing. Like for example, I want their dodging to just not have an iframe. Dodging should just be used to change your positioning. I heard the story is kind of bad, which is strange to me because the base building system is super complex. If the story isn't complex and good, then who is your target audience? So I don't think they're gonna really improve on the story, which is kind of a shame because story is a very important part of keeping your players in, keeping your players attached. Hopefully they will improve the story in a future 2.0 patch. Another thing that they're offering is a new take on the gacha system. Thank fucking god. Genshin's gacha system has definitely terrorized every other gacha game that has come after it. The whole 50-50 system, the fact that it costs $300 to guarantee one character from zero. With Ark Knight Enfield, there is a 50-50, but to guarantee your character, it's 120 total pulls. So that means you actually have to be smart with your pulls because there's also no pity system carrying after the banner is already over. And I'd say that's like a really nice trade from 120 pulls versus 180 pulls, which guarantees a character. I also heard duplicates of the characters really don't change them that much. So it's not going to be very whale friendly, but in turn it's going to make the game really friendly for free-to-play players. So Ark Knight Enfield, I'm super excited because it's going to fill that base building niche that I just want to scratch. You can also interact with the map itself by building things on it, which is completely different from all the other games. In Ark Knight Enfield, you can put grappling hooks in order to traverse the map. You would just place this here, place this there, go from A to B. Now, is it as cool as having cars and being able to fly? No, not really, but I'm glad that they're doing some sort of new take on the exploration genre. So, Ark Knight Enfield, super different exploration system, extremely different combat system, and a base building system that will get you locked the fuck in. So bam, another piece of the pie taken. Now, I decided to save the best for last. That is Azure Premilia. In my opinion, this game is very, very close to what Genshin could have been. Let me list out everything that Azure Premilia promises. You're only getting women in the game. The skins are probably going to be amazing because Azure Lane offers amazing skins. The game is also funded really well just because of Azure Lane. You're also going to be a male MC, so you already know who the target audience of this game is for. I'm sorry to all the women out there, but I'm gonna be honest, if you want male characters, just play Love in Deep Space. The environment also looks absolutely fantastic. They're already adding ground mounts and flying right off the rip, so I'm imagining that the world is gigantic on launch. Because if you have a flying system and your world is as big as Mondstadt on release, that's not good. But I don't think that would be a problem because of the amount of money that they're dumping into this game. Another thing that they're promising is the Pokemon catching system. Also, those Pokemon can evolve. What do you do in Genshin? You turn into a fucking dinosaur? Like, this Pokemon system is so fucking sick that I think Nintendo might just sue them. They're also your slaves because they can make a farm for you. What you're telling me is this game is Power World and Genshin Impact combined into one, except every aspect that Genshin Impact has, it does better. And what I mean by that is Azure Premilia also has an elemental reaction system. So in that case, Genshin's combat is now being overtaken by Azure Premilia. And also the characters look amazing. The combat looks absolutely amazing. Exploration's gonna be amazing. Base building's also gonna be great. Pokemon catching system. Combat with an elemental system. Again, Genshin absolutely has nothing on this. My prediction is Azure Premilia is going to take the biggest piece of Genshin's pie. And hopefully this game will push Genshin into the best that it will ever be. My hopes are kind of low considering everything that Hoyoverse has been doing so far, like the global passive. While all these games I listed out are quote-unquote Genshin killers, these games are not Genshin's killers. Genshin's real killers are just the Hoyoverse devs themselves. I mean, look, they have unlimited resources, unlimited time. Hoyoverse, instead of improving on their own system in Genshin, they chose to do nothing instead. What Hoyoverse needs to realize is they're no longer the monopoly that they once were back in COVID. The things that they once offered are now being done 10 times better in other games. That is why Genshin has nothing left.